Hello there, and welcome once again to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. Well, of course, hopefully you know, but my name's Ritchie, and it's great to have you here with us today. Look, as always, over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of small-scale property development. And as always, we're going to be talking to some of the movers and some of the shakers out there who will give us the inside track on what's happening in the property world, hopefully to help you steer your journey forward in a property way. Also, we'll be shining a spotlight on areas that we think could be a good opportunity for new developers to have a look at. Above all, though, you know what Open Door's about. Above all, we're going to have a bit of fun doing it. Why not? Because life is definitely far too short not to. So on today's show, what have we got going on today? Well, I'm just going to bring him in a minute. I'm so pleased that we've got him on. We've been trying to get this gentleman on for some time. And you think it would be easy because he actually works with us, but actually our diaries are so busy, it's often difficult to actually get the two to align. So I'm very pleased today that we have propertyCEO's very own client relations director on, a gentleman called Dan.nelson. And Dan.nelson is a developer in his own right. And that's why he works with us. That's why we have him looking after client relations. He does this in his spare time. He's got his development going on and he works with us. So it is a great relationship. I met Dan some years ago now and just thought we've got to work together. He is, as I say, he's an established developer, landlord, business coach. He's worked in the industry, in the property industry, for nearly 20 years. He's a co-founder of a development company called the Harnell Group, which he's got out there. And I won't say too much here, tell you what he's doing, but he's always out there at different events. You'll often find him at exhibitions, representing not only propertyCEO, but obviously he's out there representing himself. And he has an absolute passion, I can tell you this, an absolute passion for supporting and helping those looking to get into property development. And he's currently working on numerous projects himself across London. So a bit of an experienced guy. When you see him, you think, no, he's far too young to have all that. Dan.nelson, welcome to the show, Dan. How are you?
Great, Richie. Good to be here. What an introduction. Thanks. That's amazing.
Yeah. So someone in our team said that I should read all that sort of thing out because they said that is what you're about. And I don't know whether that's true or not. Maybe that's someone else's bio. Is that yours or someone else's?
I'm not sure who wrote that, but it sounded very good. So I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I knew all that stuff. Look, Dan, it's great to have you with us. As I said to everyone, you are a client relations director here. You work with us. It's not a full-time role. You've got your own development journey going on as well. I thought, Dan, it'd be great. I've been wanting to get you on the Open Door Show for some time. Obviously, we work together all the time, but as I just said in the intro, it's difficult getting us both together to actually record one of these shows. I really wanted to really just probe you a bit on your development journey, not really necessarily the role you're doing here with us at propertyCEO, but I think so many people will resonate with your journey of where you've been because property development's not easy. It's not necessarily come easy to you. Dan, where did you first start in property? How long ago was it?
Goodness me. Wow. So we've got to be going back 25 years. I working in London, working in a corporate in London, saving up deposits, buying the worst house on the best street, flipping them, just holding them, refinancing them. That's called buy, refurbish, refinance now, I believe. Just doing a ton of that stuff. That's how I kind of started out.
And why did you want to start in property? Because what's your background prior to property?
My background prior to properties is a mix of business development.
Yep.
So it's working with startups, working in commercial divisions for businesses and helping them scale up. So predominantly sales-led, client relations-led.
So what about the property journey? What was it that you saw, which I'm sure a lot of people are equally seeing out there, people listening to this right now, whether it's day, night, evening, wherever you are, you're obviously all very welcome. But Dan, what was it that you saw in property that made you want to actually, alongside your day job as it was then, get involved in it?
I have a passion for property, and working in London, working in some of the places that I've worked, getting to know people that have been successful in property just over the years, because you meet a lot of successful people over the years, and property always came up. It always came up, and it just kind of it lighted a match. And so from that point on, I'd read books, I would go online. Just kind of had a pull towards getting into property.
Yeah.
Difficult to actually put a pin on it.
So that passion was the thing that drove you. It wasn't necessarily to go out and make a ton of money out of property. It was a passion to get involved in property that drove you initially.
That's right. Yeah. And of course, looking at it from a commercial perspective, you can make a lot of money in property.
Yeah. Okay, so that was there as well then. So it's not just a passion.
It wasn't just for the love of it.
Yeah, it wasn't just for the love of it. I know you've got a young son. He's not going to be cheap as he grows up. So you had to do something, didn't you? He's going to cost
Absolutely.
you a fortune, that lad.
Brilliant.
And you worked overseas in property, if I'm right in saying, for a while in real estate. Just tell us about that, because that's obviously a different track than a lot of people would take. How did you end up overseas? What were you doing?
Well, that's goodness me, it's incredible. So I was working in London. Thoroughly enjoy my work in London. Always loved being overseas. Always loved the the Mediterranean climate, and been to Spain a few times on holiday, and got to meet a few property companies whilst I was over there, and an opportunity come up to go and work for this company in Spain. We sold in 14 countries around the globe. We had a very, very strong workforce. Good ethics, good work ethos. Very, very good business. And so
when you said good work ethos, did you say you work hard? I'm guessing, I'm reading between the lines here, work hard and play hard, because I see you smiling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I've probably got the grey hairs and the wrinkles to prove it. So I'm not sitting too close to the camera.
Yeah.
But I spent a good three years there, learn a hell of a lot, work with some high net worth investors overseas. And it really kind of, got me going. And obviously the crash happened.
So tell me, Dan, in terms of 2008, it all stopped. Did it happen pretty quickly, or what went on there?
It was very quick. Within a couple of weeks, there was the vast majority of us were on planes back to Stansted, Heathrow, Gatwick. And it was a pretty scary time.
And what did you do when you come back? Did you go back into property? I know you had a bit of a portfolio, but presumably not enough to sustain a living. Was it back into property, or what did you do?
It was a bit of both. But predominantly back into the corporate in London. I had to get my feet back under the table again. Start creating some more revenue. And I basically started doing what I was doing before I left Spain.
Yeah, and that was back in a customer relations development type role, was it? Not property.
Correct. Yeah, sales director's role in London. Had to work my way back up again.
Yeah.
As we all did, we all felt the pinch in 2007, 2008, and so you kind of do what you got to do to keep the lights on. It was a big shock. We didn't see this coming. So 1 minute you're on a beach, enjoying the Mediterranean sun. 2 weeks later, you're back in good old Blighty.
Okay, so from there, you're done your European tour of property. You come back to 2008 in a crash. What was your next move in property? Because I know you got into property development then, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I did. And before I did that, I was obviously still saving up, buying properties, doing them up, flipping them, did some major refurbs. And I attended a seminar for a couple of days in London. So I started doing some property networking events in the evening. I had a flyer to attend a property seminar for a few days in London. And I went along to that seminar. I was rubbing shoulders with loads of property professionals, people that were looking to get into property. It was very relatable to the situation that I was in. Realized that you could get a property business going part-time, which I was kind of doing anyway.
Yeah.
Getting a property business going part-time. And there was a way of transitioning from, full-time employment, working the grind 9 to 5 on the daily commute, but transitioning into your own business where, you're in charge of your own time. You got a lot of flexibility, and that really, really appealed to me.
And that transition you were looking at then was into development, was it? Or it wasn't just flipping or trying to get a bite of that portfolio. You were looking to generate lumps of cash. That was right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I actually started deal sourcing, and I was deal sourcing whilst I was in full-time work, and I was also looking for development opportunities as well.
So
Now,
you were
what hap-
sourcing opportunities for other people, but if there was a nice development opportunity in there, you were going to plan. You're planning to keep that yourself.
Correct,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what happened.
And what? So a deal came along. Then tell me about this first deal.
It was amazing. So we spent a long time building relationships with local agents south of London. I was trading properties through a deal sourcing business that I set up. That enabled me to come away from the full-time work. That was a big step. And when you've got a young family to support as well, it's not a decision that you take lightly. But you've got to have faith. You've got to take that leap of faith, and you have to believe in yourself. And building relationships with the agents in south of London, we had a couple of deals that come across our paths, one of which we really liked the look of. And yeah, that was an amazing project. That was a conversion. It was an old working man's club conversion of the property into two semi-detached 1920s cottages, which were their original form. They'd become a restaurant and a kitchen. And yeah, we converted that unit back into two 1920s cottages. That was our first project.
Just coming back then, would you say there one of the key things in securing that working men's club into the two cottages was that relationship, or those relationships you built with the agents? We always say to our students, that's absolutely key, that relationship. Would you say that was what was paramount to getting that first deal?
100%. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. That and credibility.
Yeah.
Because we've gone off, we built a brand. We had a business plan. We'd been speaking to professionals, and when we presented our business to these agents, we weren't going in half cocked.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely relationships.
Brilliant. So we're here. We've got this potential opportunity. It was a working men's club into a couple of cottages. Did you have to get planning on that, or did it have planning in place, that scheme?
It had planning in place already.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you add any extra value to that, or uplift it, or was it just about pricing it keenly and getting it built as price effective as you could?
Both. Yeah, both. So we were looking at ways in which we could re-engineer the ground floor, put a shower room in, because it was just a downstairs toilet. We put a shower room in, so it had a second bathroom, and we went kind of over and above in terms of the fit out. So German imported kitchens, engineered flooring, herringbone flooring, Villeroy and Bock finishing, lovely landscape. So we wanted to kind of sort of set a price precedent in the street. So it was both. It was both.
And who guided you on that in terms of sweating that asset? And as you said, you were trying to break some boundaries in those streets there with that price, go above those cities. How did you get guidance on that? Was that through local residential agents that you built relationships as well, or how did that work?
That was through education.
Okay.
That was through education. That was working alongside some experts, having a mentor, and then looking at the floor plan and saying, in actual fact, you can sweat the asset. You can do more to this building than it's got planning for. You won't really need to necessarily change that, because you've got the structures there, and it already has planning. So it was about adding value.
So had you not had that guidance alongside you, that project wouldn't have turned out the results that it did at that time otherwise?
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
It's that saying, we always use it here, and obviously Dan obviously well knows this because he works with us, but it's the phrase I always use: you don't know what you don't know. And of course these things can open your eyes. So that project presumably was a success when you sold it out, did you, or refinanced and held it?
We sold them out. I mean, you have to remember as well, one thing we haven't mentioned, it was height of Brexit. So we completed on this purchase, I think a week or 2 weeks later we Brexited.
Yep.
And so it was a very scary time. But
you
so
completed okay. You sold out and got the cash.
Correct.
Yeah.
We did.
And if I said to you, what was the mistake looking back now, because we always make mistakes, we can all learn. If for anyone listening on that first project, what would have been the biggest mistake that you made then that now you wouldn't do again?
We would have done more due diligence on the contractor. We would have certainly done more due diligence on the contractor, and I think that would have been the key thing, really. That would have been the main thing.
So a few little issues there by the sounds of it, but let's be positive. What was the thing on that project, the 2 cottages out of that working men's club, that you felt was the thing that you really did right that made it successful? What was the ingredient there?
Push through and had the right team around us. I mean, I mentioned the contract. The contract was very, very good. Okay, but they didn't have that experience. They had done projects previously, but not to this degree. Just to be clear on that. But having the right team around you and having a mentor there, which was brilliant, to lean on them. That was the key for us.
So just tell me then, this team, you talked about the team there being the successful part. Presumably this was like architect, structural engineer, project manager, whatever, help guide and control to get this contractor over the line and deliver the project successfully at the end. That was key, yeah? That was
very key. Yeah, incredibly. That was the way to go. So we had architects come into site, our QSs, surveyors, and everybody was chipping in with ideas. And it was an amazing experience to have all of these professionals around you, helping you guide you through the project.
Wow. Okay, 2 cottages under your belt. Where did you go next in terms of development? What did you do?
Well, so that's the thing. So during Brexit, back then, we were quite limited on what you could do around permitted development. We were quite restricted on PD. It certainly wasn't as as flexible as permitted development rights are now. So we had to transition the business model. So rather than going out there and buying schemes with planning, because a lot of the owners that we were talking to wanted, 2014 prices. Wow. It was extortionate. And during Brexit, there was a lot more kind of, I guess, skepticism over the market, where the market's going to go. So lenders weren't really that forthcoming with lending. So we transitioned the business model. So rather than buying sites with planning, we would then go off and actually find the planning. So we then transitioned the business into land acquisition. Right.
So you took that move into land acquisition almost because you were driven in that direction by the sounds of it.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
And at that time, I'm guessing if we go back 2014, I mean, we might come on to this in a minute, but permitted development rights weren't really around. I mean, they've always been around, but not in the way that we have them now. So you didn't really have that choice. So land acquisition was almost the only way you could have gone, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. We're almost kind of forced into that.
Yeah. And if we think about land acquisition, so is that what you do now in terms of development? So let's just bring it up to date, and then we'll go back and talk about land acquisition. Is that pretty much what you do as a developer now?
Yeah, well, alongside looking at commercial stock, because why wouldn't you? There's big opportunities out there in the commercial space right now, and there will be for the foreseeable. But yeah, land acquisition, I have a number of schemes in for planning at the moment, a number of schemes that we have out of planning that are under construction. So yeah, at the moment it's land acquisition, but also looking at those commercial opportunities as well.
And the thing about planning is obviously the time scale. And so it's very difficult to predict actually how quickly these schemes are going to come out. So for anyone out there listening to this today who's thinking, well, actually, I want to get into property and make some money quite quickly, land development doesn't always give you that. What's your experience in the planning system? Are these projects taking quite a long time to get through?
Yeah, well, some of the projects have taken 3 or 4 years to get out of planning.
Wow, 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
So if you're looking to get into development, I wouldn't say go straight out and do a planning game. Start with some of the lower hanging fruit, because there are other opportunities out there that you can look at that. And the things with planning, it's very subjective. Very subjective.
But from your perspective, you like the fact that you've mastered this route with the planning. I presume you've got a great professional team around you that assist you, and these things presumably run in parallel to other property stuff that you do and other things that you do in your life as well. Obviously, you do some stuff with us here and work with some of our students. So that just runs in parallel. So of course, if anyone out there can afford to do that, they don't need this income in the next 3 or 4 years. Land acquisition can be good as a sort of a parallel strategy, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because it does free you up to do other things.
Yeah. And how have you, over the time that you've done your land acquisition, or you've been doing your land acquisition, should I say, how have you perfected that? What have you done to make that process within your business better? Because you must have learned things on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So having good processes and systems. You got to make the mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's how we learn. And having good processes and systems in your business, are fundamental. Definitely.
And is there anything apart from the processes and systems that you really did fundamentally wrong? What's that mistake that you could say, I did that on my first land development schemes to stop other people making that mistake? Is there one that you can think of?
Yeah, very scattergun. I was very scattergun. I was here, there, and everywhere. And niching, looking at a particular, area. My sort of kind of honing in on what your niche is. I think that's quite important.
So to start with, so when you say scattergun, are you talking about geographically? You just went everywhere, did you?
Yeah, just like a crazy fool. Just here, there, and everywhere. Just sending out letters, talking to local authorities, calling up commercial agents. The phone was going crazy. And it was just, you need to kind of niche, build relationships, work on those relationships. And you've got to get in those relationships going with the agents. The agents are key. They are, I can't stress enough. We do a lot of direct to vendor in the business, but it's still great to have those relationships with the agents, because the agents can go out, speak to the vendors, even though you've got an inquiry coming through, just to really cement your position as a developer.
So you chose, so the mistake was this scattergun, as you say, a crazy fool, but actually it's about, you had probably so much energy, so much enthusiasm, but it wasn't really well focused. So you went down this road to focus that, geographically niched that, and presumably that meant then those relationships with those agents was limited just to a handful of agents that you could really get to know. Is that how it ended up?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's done you good, because those agents now know that you follow through.
Yeah, you can perform. There's a term that's bounced around in our industry, Ritchie, as it's called perform. They want to see that you can perform.
Yeah.
Getting into that agent sort of mind, being on that list of preferred developers that you go to. They want to see that you can perform, and obviously having the right team around you, building that credibility, will give them that extra kind of reassurance that you can deliver.
You've been in this industry now, in the property industry. Obviously, you've been doing other stuff in other industries as well, but the property industry is, as we said at the top of the show, for about 20 years. But if you were starting right now, again, because there'd be people listening to this, Dan, and going, oh, well, that's okay for Dan.Nelson. He's been in the industry 20 years. But of course, you had to start somewhere, as we all did. So anyone that's listening now, with the benefit of your 20 years knowledge in this industry, where would you suggest they start? Let's assume we've got someone out there with maybe a couple of buy-to-lets, maybe someone with absolutely no property experience at all. Maybe they've got some good business experience. Where would you start if you did your time again, right now, 2023? What would you do?
Good. Well, without sounding biased, because I know that you run a property education business, but
of course you do, because you're part of it.
I would say you have to get yourself educated, but do your due diligence. Do your due diligence on, as you would do with looking at a deal, a property deal, a development deal. Do your due diligence on the people that are going to be training you, and align yourself with the best. If you can find the best in the market, align yourself with the best.
So okay, so let's assume getting educated is taken as read. Okay, yes, of course we run a property training business. Never used to. I retired 13 years ago. I've been in this industry a long time, and always train people privately. But this is now what I do. But so yeah, in a way, it's obvious to get educated. And as you say, absolutely, Dan, whether it's with us or someone else, it doesn't matter, but do your due diligence. Certainly always do that on any potential mentor that is going to guide and steer you. How long has he or she been in the industry? What sort of qualifications do they have? What experience and so on? And do you like them? Do you get on with them? But apart from the education, where would you start? So you want to make some lumps of money in property. What would you do? Would you be doing the land? Would you be doing a conversion? Let's extend this question to, would you be doing HMOs, service departments? What would you do?
I think in this market right now, the buy-to-let market is struggling. We know that interest rates have gone through the roof. It's very difficult to get your yields on your buy-to-lets unless you're buying below market value. It's very hard to get those deals. I would be looking at the more kind of affluent areas and seeing if you can get a kind of reduction on the acquisition, but look at yield. It's very, very tricky on the buy-to-let front at the moment. The obvious direction really would, at this particular point in time, would be looking at commercial and looking at PDR.
Are you talking about commercial buildings and converting them into residential using permitted development rights? For those that don't know what PDR is, permitted development rights, yeah?
Yeah, that's what I would be looking at.
Well, just explain, Dan, sorry to cut across you, for the audience's benefit, because again, they're going to be people completely new. What does permitted development rights mean? Just explain why that is beneficial to people.
Well, permitted development rights are, you don't need full planning, so you can take these commercial buildings, you can convert them into residential without the need for full planning. Okay. And at the moment in the market, we're seeing a lot of commercial stock coming onto the market because, business owners are really feeling the pain. They've been through the mill over the last couple of years. Business rates are increasing, energy rates are increasing. There's a lot of vacant buildings out there. We need 300,000 homes a year. We're not delivering those numbers. Brownfield opportunities like commercial stock, whether that's gyms, shops, banks, creches, office blocks, they can contribute somewhere in the region of around 1 million plus homes to the market. So with Whitehall, central government relaxing and introducing PDR like Class MA and Class E, you can now go in and convert these buildings into residential without the need for full planning. And I think there's a big opportunity there. You've got commercial landlords that are sitting on these commercial buildings. They can't find commercial tenants. They can't find commercial tenants. Commercial tenants moving in will be faced with exactly the same issues that the previous commercial tenant faces. And then all of those costs go up to the landlord. So they're looking for another exit. And I think with permitted development rights, that does provide a good exit for landlords in some of these areas where you can do it.
And just a bit of further clarification for those that's listening, permitted development rights, if you don't know, the local planning officers are obliged to give you an answer in 56 days. There's only so many questions they can ask you. So you're not going down this road where Dan's talking about before, where you could be a year, 2, 3, 4 years even to try and get planning. You're going to get it in 56 days. If not, in simple terms, you can just carry on. So your suggestion, Dan, is look at that commercial stock out there, use the current permitted development rights. If you were starting a property now, that's what you would be doing straight away.
Yeah, definitely.
Dan, I think it's always useful to talk about this. You work with us, okay? As I say, you think it'd be easy for us to get together and record an open door, but there we are. We are here today, which is great. You're our client relations director. From our point of view, the reason we got Dan on board, I've known Dan a while, quite a few years, and we really wanted someone that would work with our students, that would be there at that interface, particularly right at the beginning of their journey, that knew what they were going through, okay? That understood where they would be, the decision-making they've got to be going through to decide whether, first of all, they want to be a developer or not, okay? And I think that's the key thing. So your role, Dan, is very much at the front end, talking to people, deciding whether they want to be a developer. Whether they want to work with us is another thing, but that's there. We love you for that respect. I don't want to big you up too much, but we love you because you have got that experience. You have done that journey yourself. And you are, in my opinion, very passionate about trying to help people. Why did you, alongside all your other stuff, want to work with us? I know I'm not saying you shouldn't, but why did you want to do that?
Well, look, I mean, you and I met at the Property Investor Show many years ago, didn't we? Goodness me, and we sort of hit it off, and the rest is history. So
we're not dating, by the way. It's not like we're I mean, don't get us wrong. I mean, he's a good-looking fella, but no, I'm not hanging around with him in that sense. Mrs.
Clapson wouldn't be happy, would she? But look, I mean, it's, for me, it was very simple. We met. COVID had obviously happened. We had a conversation during COVID, and the big thing for me, Ritchie, sort of kind of just all cards on the table here, is that I mean, I've been on an education journey. I've been trained. I wouldn't ever sort of say anything bad about other training businesses. Of course, I wouldn't do that. But for me, I think aligning myself with experts, people that have got decades of years, decades of experience in the industry, that have been there and that have done it, and that are teaching people in the way that I was educated when I got educated. For me, that was the reason. It was just great to align myself with you guys, and it's good fun. I enjoy the work, as you know.
Well, that's very kind of you. So you're saying decades of experience, so basically in a roundabout way, Dan.nelson is saying I'm actually quite old. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Yeah, and I do know, and you're often too shy to say this, but you really do like helping people. You go out your way. I've seen Dan at exhibitions that we do. He's there, and he will just spend time with people. He'll take calls in the evening, weekends, just to try and help people to make the right decision and go in the right direction. And I know you are. You know, we're all commercial. We all have to run business, but you're very much about giving back, aren't you? Making sure that people are steered in the right direction. I know that's something you're passionate about.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that's really important that, you know, you are passionate and that you want to help people along the journey, of course.
Yeah.
And that's from being there, you know, that's from actually being there and earning your stripes. And I can see myself in a lot of the people's shoes that I speak to, especially at the exhibitions. You know, they're interested in getting in property. They don't know where to turn. They don't know where to start. And for me, it just takes me back to when I was getting into property and I was looking for some answers. So it's just a natural passion, I guess.
Yeah. Dan, look, that's great today. Look, if people want to get hold of you, what's your best contact details? Obviously, you've got the Harnell Group. So what's the website for Harnell Group?
Yeah, so you can go to www.harnell, HARNEL group.co.uk.
And if people want to contact you to reach out, I don't want your phone to be inundated or your emails. Is there a good email address that people can get hold of you? Say your propertyCEO email address. If people want to have a chat about your journey on theirs, what's your email contact, Dan?
Yeah, so you can reach me on Dan.nelson. So that's Dan.nelson, NELSON at propertyceo.co.uk.
There you go. We'll put Dan's contact details, his Harnell Group details, and we'll put his propertyCEO email address. Go on, inundate him, give him loads of questions, ask him about your journey. But please, you know, I mean, we're happy. Dan works with us, and we're happy to try and help you. If you want to reach out, have a bit of a chinwag on the phone, have a chat to someone who's been there. As Dan said, he's earned his stripes. He's been from the School of Hard Knocks. He's done some education. He could probably give you some really good advice, and maybe even the advice, and don't get upset if it is, development's not for you. But if he thinks it is, he'll try and steer you in the right direction. Dan, thank you for coming in today. I'm sure I know you've always got loads on your plate, so thanks for giving up the time. And have you enjoyed it?
Good to see you. Yeah, always, Ritchie. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Look, if you want Dan to come back again, please, in the chat box below the show notes, just any feedback, any comments. Obviously, if you don't want him to come back, if you thought it was a complete waste of time on this open door show, then do let us know as well. But if you do, we'll get Dan back again. Dan, thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon.
See you soon. Cheers, guys.
Now, that was good, wasn't it? Wasn't that fantastic? I mean, it's not, you think it is easy. Why can't you guys just get together and talk? But we've always got things going on. Dan, as I say, he's a client relations director here. He's always chatting to students. He looks after all of our exhibitions. He's going to get involved in some of our online training as well, which is so exciting for us going forward. So he's super busy, and our paths just never quite cross. So I'm really pleased we got on today, and hopefully you found that interesting. If you are at the start of your journey, one thing you can obviously do is just reach out to Dan. If not, grab a pen and paper, and I'm going to give you something to write down. You can do a bit of free training, okay? I've put together a bit of free training. It's called the 6-Figure Roadmap. It's just a couple of hours long. It'll dip your toe in the water, just trying to understand about how you raise money, how you do deals, that sort of thing. Write this down, propertyceo.co.uk/SFR, SFR for 6-Figure Roadmap, propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. Go and indulge yourself in a bit of free training, and we look forward to seeing you soon on the next Open Door Show. Cheers now. Bye-bye.